Hey guys, down here by the river, and I want to give you a little bit of a idea how I use this system on the river and what it kind of looks like. The river by my place is all flooded again. Kind of did a video like this last year, but I'm going to show you here. So there's like some rocks down there. There's a little bit of a tree that comes out in front of me. I have this is the 60-inch summit pole, the ice pole, and I have it all extended out, and then I just have the transducer on an angle. And what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of hold it like this, like a metal detector. And I got this little stick here. It's going to set her down in there, and you can see how the transducer is just level to the top of the water there when I set it in. And you kind of see here, as soon as I set her down in the water, you can already see. So this is 60 feet. You can see the entire river channel here from start to finish. Now the important thing is when you're doing this, if you do this and then you just start rotating your stick like you normally would, you can see what you're doing to the transducer. That's not going to work. You see what you're doing here? You're just skewing out the bottom. Now there actually is some benefits to that where you can, there's actually a fish in there. There's some benefits to that where you can kind of halfway scan the sides of images and see what things look like. But for the most part, what you're going to do is just like I was kind of showing, you kind of hold it like a metal detector here, hold it out, and then you're just going to do a sweep. And when you do a sweep, you're just going to scan the whole river. There's like a rock or something down there, and come over this way, and then you start to see these tree branches. In the river, it's real shallow. I mean, I'm in like a foot of water maybe where my transducer is, so it's not exactly optimal here. And now I'm shooting like right down the bank here, all the way down that way. So just another way you can use this technology here. Use it on anything you want. And I can try switching it to perspective view. It takes a little bit. I don't run perspective view in the blue color scheme. I run it in the amber color scheme. And looks like that might be a fish there just creeping along the bottom. You kind of just scan your way around all the way down the river here, all the way through, just like a metal detector would. Now I'll kind of show you here what I'm talking about with rotating it light. So I'll show you where this, I think there's so here's where that, see where this rock comes in again. So here's that stuff on the bottom. So when you turn this, see, you're just getting a different view. It's almost kind of like you're starting to get into the side imaging portion of it, but you're just kind of seeing things at a different angle. And sometimes that makes a big difference. All right, so the same thing here. This is the Summit Perspective mount, and I just have it tipped up on a decent angle because I'm going to come in here. I'm not going to be straight up and down. When I put this in, I'm going to be on an angle, so I don't actually need it even up that far. Just bring it down a little more. And this is why it's really important that this, has infinite adjustability, because that makes a big difference. And just remember, it's more of this edge that's shooting when perspective mode than this straightforward. It's more of here. So I'll kind of show you here. I'm going to go into it. So, menu, sonar setup, installation, orientation, perspective. Now I don't want this color scheme, so I'm going to come back in here again, sonar setup here, and I'm going to go to amber. And one thing I'll show you that I found out with perspective mode, especially, you want your noise pretty high. I run mine on high and then my TVG off. And I'll kind of show you the difference here in a second when I get into this. So let's set her down in here and see what we can make it look like. It's going to be hard with one hand to do this. So the angle that you have this transducer, you see how it's going farther and closer. And as I'm doing this, farther and closer. And you're just shining that beam closer and farther. So you're starting to see the shadows over here on these images. That's kind of that same rock we saw in forward view. Might be a log or something. I don't know what it is. Send a scuba diver down someday to figure that out. But you see how this changes, and that's why it makes a big difference. You know, if you want to focus in on this branch that's out there specifically, it makes a big difference on the angle that you put this. If I swoop this out more, now you're going to start to see that highlights just that piece right there. And then I can kind of take this guy and turn it side to side like this a little bit. And then again, it kind of gives you a different view. You can focus in, like, see how it just spotlights the top of that branch versus the side of the other one. And it changes where the shadow is as well. You can kind of steer it around, and you just have to remember, so this as it sits right here, so basically a little bit more like this, is shooting this whole side of the river right here and also that whole side of the river. You got to remember, it's really wide. So, like, I can't really do this with one hand. Try to hold this guy here. This part here is actually this bank right here that we're seeing. And you could see, it's barely even. So if I take and turn this, so like this here, you're going to see that bank is now right along the side. So you can see where it's pointing here. It's not really, it's really hard to do the angles on this with one hand and with the phone, but you kind of get the drift of what I'm saying. Now I'll show you the difference here. This I can do. Now you see these rays in here. Actually, the phone kind of highlights these better than they are here. I'm gonna try to get this looking a little better here for the. So here, right? So you see these rays. Now if I come up here and I go into noise rejection and let's just say I turn this off. You see how bright these alignment rays are? Low, medium, and you go to high, and it just really diminishes that and it smooths out the whole image. You're not really filtering out too much more except for what these lines are in here. So, and then if you go through, I'll do this too, if you do with your TVG, say you turn that to high, you lose everything up close really quickly in perspective mode. So leave that off and leave your TVG close to high, and you're going to get the smoothest image in perspective mode. Hope it helps out, and post your videos and your questions and let me know how you guys do.